I'm really pleased to introduce a pre-recorded presentation from representatives from Wiltshire County Council, Lordig and Birmingham City University about how we connect, support and develop our workforce.
Hello everyone, welcome to this session on how do we connect, support and develop our workforce. Here at Deafblind UK we work closely with our local authority colleagues and today I'm delighted to welcome Cheryl Northway from Wiltshire County Council. Wiltshire have a long track record of being an exemplar service in the support that they offer to people living with deafblindness. Cheryl is going to share their experience of delivering and developing those services. Over to you, Cheryl.
Thanks, Liz. So I'm Cheryl Northway. I'm the dual sensory lead at the Hearing and Vision team at Wiltshire Council, and this is an adult service, so supporting people over 18 living with deafblindness. Throughout my presentation and within our work in Wiltshire, we often use the term deafblindness, but we also use the terms dual sensory loss. So you may hear that used throughout, as we just find that it's a term our communities resonate with and feel sometimes more comfortable with. So, bit of background to Wiltshire. We are quite a large and very rural county. We have a population of just over 517,800, and this is residents over the age of 18 years. A large percentage of our population is age, and that's around 225,600 people. So we know that we have quite a large and aging population, and that is only expected to increase. Figures here show that from around about 2040, the projected population is set to increase quite significantly. In the bracket of the 75 to 79, by 2025, we have around 26% increase. But by 2040, this is going to jump up to around about a 56% increase in the number of people in that age group. In the over 90s, that's going to jump by 2040, expected by about 111%. So this is a huge increase. And with this increase, we know it's only going to increase the demand for our services. So here in Wiltshire, the Hearing and Vision team, who are we? We are made up of several different disciplines, specialisms within our team. We have our team manager, and then we have our specialist social worker for deaf people who works within our BSL communities. We currently have 2 rehabilitation officers for hearing. We have our vision team, so our vision rehabilitation lead, 2 vision rehabilitation specialists, 1 apprentice and 1 assistant, and then our dual sensory team, which I currently oversee. We have 2 dual sensory specialists and 3 communicator guides. We also have a business support officer within our team. We have a commitment to deafblind services. We currently have 2 members of staff who hold the highest level, the level 5 qualification. We have 2 members of staff who hold the level 3 specialist deafblind assessors qualification, and 6 of our current staff team are qualified communicator guides. We have a commitment to furthering the development needs and training of our staff team. We have 1 member of staff who is currently undertaking the level 4 certificate in deafblind studies, and I'm hoping will go on to complete the level 5 as well. We have a member of staff who is waiting to undertake the communicator guide qualification, and 2 members of our team are booked to attend intervener training in October. The number of assessments we have carried out has increased. when I come on to our key challenges, you'll see why some of these numbers are lower than perhaps we'd expect. But we can see that the number of assessments is increasing, and with the increased demand, we will need to grow the service to kind of continue this. So our key challenges in Wiltshire, like everyone, the coronavirus pandemic has had a huge impact on our services. The ability to get out and visit people with the number of lockdowns we've had. But we've also found that once restrictions were lifted, a lot of our communities were still very, very fearful of having home visits. They, have other health conditions, other disabilities, and have just been really concerned about having home visits. Particularly the impact of PPE, personal protective equipment, and the impact this has had on communicating with deafblind people has been huge, absolutely huge. One of our other key challenges is training. We're committed to training our staffing teams, but again, the availability of training has been affected by the coronavirus pandemic. But also we're finding that there's very, very limited training that's available in or around Wiltshire. So we are regularly sending members of staff perhaps 2 hours or further afield, having to stay overnight for several days to complete the required training. And this, of course, has an impact on our services. If our staff are away on training, then it affects the day-to-day delivery as well. So it's managing both aspects of that. A huge challenge in Wiltshire is intervener provision. We have a good track record of assessing, obtaining support and funding for specialist communicator guides, but interveners has been a real challenge in recent years. We are finding that we are identifying more people that would benefit from this support, but where we've obtained funding either from Wiltshire Council or from Health, there seems to be a real limited local and national availability of interveners, and this is having a huge knock-on effect for us. The timeliness of intervention is also really crucial in Wiltshire, like other local authorities. Quite often we are contacted to visit somebody, at a point where things have got really, really bad, perhaps crisis, and actually sometimes the impact of that could have been lessened if we'd have had earlier intervention, not just with our services, but also if they had been seen by eye clinics, audiology, other health professionals as well. So the timeliness can be a real challenge for us. Again, not just unique to Wiltshire, but the access to appropriate health provision for deafblind people, the difficulties with transport to get to appointments, having appropriate information and access when you get to those appointments, having the availability of BSL interpreters, it's affecting us like everywhere else. So what are we doing in Wiltshire to overcome these challenges? In 2015, we decided to bring our communicator guide service in-house. So we offer an internal service now. That's working really well. It was affected by coronavirus, but since restrictions have lifted, we've worked hard to really reintroduce our servicing and bring it back. And I think it's quite strong now. We are looking to follow suit and bring our intervener provision in-house. As I said earlier, we have 2 members of staff who are undertaking the training soon. So we're quite excited to be able to offer internal in-house intervener provision from later this year. I'm sure there will be many challenges and obstacles to overcome and lots of lessons to learn, but it's an exciting opportunity for us here. One of the other changes that we have made is with regards to our certificate of visual impairment process. Historically, we've received CVIs. They've automatically been processed by our vision rehabilitation specialists, but probably within the last 12 months, we made the decision that where the eye clinic has identified that a person has a hearing loss, we now make contact from the dual sensory team for that person. So the first point of contact is somebody that's trained in dual sensory loss specifically and has those conversations with the customer. I think this has been really beneficial. I think we have captured far more people and been able to offer a service that we may not have previously captured. So I think that's really positive, and that is helping with our early intervention as well, because people are being offered support at a more timely process. Also, for those that are accepting and choosing that they wish to be registered, having the option to register as dual sensory loss rather than single sensory loss is an option, and we are increasing the number of registrations we are offering. But as part of that process, people are now, they may not be at a point that they feel they require a home visit, but they are then reviewed and contacted annually. So should things change, hopefully we can offer support again before things get too bad, and they feel that they just don't know where to turn. So that's really positive. We're also trying to build on our multi-agency working, both within the council and externally. We're working with our special educational needs and disabilities teams and children's services, and looking to improve our transition process for people, coming across into adult services. Working with eye clinics, ophthalmologies, audiologies, and other health professionals to, again, raise awareness, highlight the specialist needs of this particular customer group, and get support at the right time. Our vision, we're doing a lot in Wiltshire, but I feel there's a lot more locally and nationally that can be done. We would love to see wider awareness, wider training, not just in social care, but across all health departments, to understand, to recognise when someone has a dual sensory loss or deafblindness, and to get support at the right time. We are hoping to set up customer focus groups where we can have regular contact with our deafblind communities, not just those that are using our services, to get their feedback for shaping for future services. And I'd love to see some more specialist care provision for those that are needing it and living with deafblindness. So whether that's bespoke care agencies, bespoke care homes, I feel that's a real area for improvement. Lots of our care homes offer specialist support for dementia, and I think it would be wonderful if it was standard to have within a care home a sensory department where people were supported by carers, but that have that knowledge and understanding of deafblindness. And yes, we can provide support. We put in place communicator guide support for people in care homes, but actually to have access to that day and night, if that's where you're living and that's where you're needing to be. And I'd love to see more growth in specialist care. We've got a testimonial here from one of my colleagues who is deafblind himself and is an employee at Wiltshire Council. I think I read somewhere that nationally only a tiny percentage of deafblind people manage to get into employment. Much easier if it's just blind or just deaf, especially the latter when it comes to finding work, I think. I'm lucky in that I can use screen magnification to work on a computer. This is not an option for all deafblind people. I applied for this role after seeing it advertised online, ticking the box to say I had a disability. When I was shortlisted for an interview and asked what support I needed during the interview, I explained my disabilities and that I could only read papers, etc. with a video magnifier, and that I used screen magnification on computers. I'd bring my iPad so questions could be typed and I could type answers. Turned up for the interview and found a video magnifier had been sourced and set up for the interview room, so I was able to look at some diagrams and graphs on paper as part of my interview. That was a surprise. Panel must have liked me because I liked my guide dog because I was offered the job shortly afterwards. It took a few weeks to finalise support from Access to Work, funding for and purchasing of my own video magnifier, and screen magnification software for the laptop, plus taxis to and from County Hall where we were based. As the role is working with data and information, it's pretty much all done on computer. Colleagues use Skype and later Teams to communicate, and this works pretty well. Whenever in the office, they'd just write on the palm of my hand if it was a quick question. I worked from home full-time during the pandemic, with Skype, Teams as my only contact with colleagues. When we were allowed back into the office, I asked whether I could work from Bourne Hill, as lockdown had shown we did not need to be at County Hall, and walking to and from Bourne Hill would be much better for my guide dog than a taxi to Trowbridge. On the rare occasions I do make the trip to County Hall, a colleague accompanies me back to the train station and makes sure I get on the right train back to Salisbury, as Trowbridge is an unmanned station. I'd just like to finish with some comments from what our current communicator guide customers say about the support they receive. Your visits mean so much to me. I'm stuck in this house all the time because I'm too afraid to go out on my own, not because of my sight, afraid to go out on my own now because of my sight. I'm afraid I will fall. Not only that, you give me confidence. I'm very anxious, you see. I find it so difficult to make decisions for myself. You showed me today that I could make a decision on my own. You told me I could, and I did. I decided to buy those shoes myself. I feel really happy with myself, and that's because of you. I'm finding it really difficult to look after Mum, as my dad is also needing more care now. My mum really needs that mental stimulation. I don't get in to see her as much as I should, and to be honest, our relationship has never been close. She loves you coming, you have the time for her, and you take a weight off my shoulders. I really appreciate you. I just wanted to call to say thank you so much for my mother's book of memories. I've read it all through and it was so well presented. It must have taken a long time. It's a lovely thing to have to remember her by, and I will keep it safe. Thank you for everything you did for her. You made a real difference to her life at a time that was difficult for her. You keep me alive. I couldn't cope without you. And comments from supporting a customer to reconnect with her friends. Thank you so much for doing this. Chris is such a lovely, intelligent lady, and we have missed her. We haven't seen her so bright like this for a long time. She has such interesting stories to tell. She's lived a full life. We think it's wonderful what you do. Keep up the good work. So as you can see, we've got a lot going on in Wiltshire, but we're quite aware that there's much more that can be done. And we look forward to the future and to see what deafblind services for the future will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. We've heard how a local authority connects and supports people living with deafblindness. Now we're going to hear how local authority workers connect and support each other. Jo Brady and Tracy Osborne co-chair LawDig, and I'm going to hand over to them to explain what LawDig stands for and what it does. Over to you, Jo.
Thank you very much, Liz. So what is LawDig? It stands for the Local Authority Workers Deafblind Interest Group. I'm sure that many of you at this conference have been members at one time or another of the group. We used to meet in London at the Sense headquarters in Pentonville Road up in Islington. In around 2015, unfortunately, the chair of the group was moving on, and there was a lot of discussion about how LawDig would move forward, whether chairing and hosting the group would be shared between members and meetings moved between London boroughs, but nobody offered. At the final meeting, it was said it would have to fold and people just keep in contact using email. Myself and Tracy have seen LawDig as a really good learning opportunity because in our sensory team in Thurrock, there's only two of us. And so it was a good opportunity to meet with our peers and find out more information. We decided that we couldn't let LawDig go, and so we both took on the role of organising and chairing the meetings. So who are we in the group? We're mostly social workers, rehabilitation workers, technical officers, and those who work for deafblind charities like Deafblind UK. and currently we have around 130 members. And that was because since COVID, we moved online, so we was able to connect with people in Wales and up to the north of England as well. So what's the focus of our group? We share good practice and problem solving. So if we've got a particular case that we're unsure about, we might connect with our peers and ask how they would manage it. Have they got any tips? We have speakers at each group. So Tracy's going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. We keep up to date with technology. As you know, technology is always moving on. So we invite people in to show us the latest products. We have a slot for Sense. They come in, their policy team, and they tell us about any new legislation or what's going on a national level. And as I've said, we keep in touch with our peers as well. So between meetings, we've got an email distribution list that we can ask any questions, share any tips or things that we've come across that's very good. And we're also ensuring that deafblind issues are highlighted within both our local authorities that we work for and on a national level as well.
So what's the importance of LawDig? Deafblindness is a specialist area where senior managers and others within adult social care often lack the knowledge and understanding required to ensure best practice and obligations under the Care Act. Sensory teams are often small, as are me and Joe, there's only two of us, resulting in workers feeling isolated and not heard. And this is particularly around clinical support and specialist need. So, as Joe said earlier, we have speakers at every LawDig meeting, and on screen is a list of those that we have had. Speakers are, we feel, an important part of LawDig and provide us with knowledge and understanding of their specialism. Since we have managed LawDig, we have had Lynn Romero, Chief Social Worker, Marsha de Cordova, at the time she was Shadow Minister for Disability, and Peter Simcock, who is on the panel today. This is an example of some of the speakers, as there have been many. One of the projects we did as a group back in 2019 was to raise awareness of deafblindness amongst professionals through the alongside the Principal Social Worker Network, and a copy was sent to every adult social care worker in the country. We launched this in Parliament with Marsha de Cordova, and the Principal Social Workers were present, who were able to take this back to their teams to discuss. Please feel free to email us and we will send you a copy. So what are our next steps? What we are trying to do is to really embed LawDig into deafblind specialism. We have Teams channel for easier collaboration. We have a LawDig sub-working group meeting in November 2023 to develop next year's programme. We continue to strive to get new speakers in, and we are open to people coming to us who would like to help us move forward with LawDig. So what would you like to see in the group? We can be contacted, sensory@thurrock.gov.uk, or by Joe Brady, who's a team manager and social worker, or myself, Tracy Osborne, who is sensory rehabilitation worker. Future speakers will include Sign Health and RAD. If you were interested in joining the group or have ideas on speakers or speaking, please contact us. We'll be happy to have a discussion. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Joe and Tracy. And now we move on to our third speaker in this section, Dr. Peter Simcock from Birmingham City University. Dr. Simcock is going to take us through how we connect and develop the workforce who support people living with deafblindness. Over to you, Peter.
Well, thank you, Liz, for that very warm introduction, and I'm delighted to be speaking at this now third conference put on by Deafblind UK, talking about how we connect, support and develop our workforce. Okay, so hopefully people can see the screen and the slides here that I'm talking about. So I'm talking about how we connect, support and develop our workforce working with deafblind people, effectively how we create the next generation of deafblind specialists. And to do that, I'm delighted to be able to talk about the certificate and diploma in professional studies, deafblind studies, or which we run here at Birmingham City University, and the role that these courses play in connecting, supporting and developing the workforce. So why deafblind studies? Well, there were multiple reasons why we developed and deliver these deafblind studies courses. And this included the fact that research in deafblindness is something of an emerging discipline. It has been described as being in its infancy, particularly if we think about other groups of deafblind people. So like the work of charitable and campaigning organisations, much work focused on the educational needs of congenitally deafblind children. And it wasn't really until the 1980s when wider consideration was given to other groups of deafblind people, including older people, those with late life acquired deafblindness. And we began to consider not only educational needs, but also health and social care needs. We also know that it's a growing population. There are an estimated 393,588 deafblind adults in the UK, and it's predicted to increase. And this, of course, or one of the main reasons, of course, for this is the ageing of the population, although not the only reason. And of course, there were legal reasons as to why delivering these courses was so important. The Care Act 2014 in England and the Social Services and Wellbeing Wales Act in Wales placed new duties on local authorities in England and Wales in relation to the social care and support of deafblind people. And this includes things, doesn't it, like the need for assessments of individuals who are deafblind to be carried out by people that have specialist training and specialist qualification in deafblindness. However, the need to connect, to support and to develop the workforce was certainly central in our thinking about delivering these courses. Practitioners across health and social care have reported a need for training in the field of deafblindness, and the following communication illustrates current concern about the limited number of practitioners specialising in the field. We're frustrated that most social work courses don't appear to have a module or aspect to the course that includes sensory. We are concerned about where the next crop of sensory social workers will come from. And even back in 2004, Croft, Beresford and Wolf Cochrane noted the national shortage of qualified and experienced social care workers and social workers working effectively in the sensory impairment field. And so it was really essential, therefore, that courses were made available to support the workforce. Though these courses are now delivered by Birmingham City University, it really would be remiss of me not to acknowledge the history of these courses. Although new to the university, they are not brand new courses. These courses really were developed in the early 1990s as a response to increased awareness of the unmet needs, the unmet social care needs in particular, of deafblind people amongst public services. And so back in the 1990s, a consortium of organisations, including Deafblind UK, Sense, Guide Dog Scotland, Deafblind Scotland and CACDP, now known as Signature, came together with a common aim and a commitment to developing the workforce and to raising standards and qualification levels amongst workers in the field of deafblindness. This consortium worked very hard, coming together, offering materials, offering time and resources to develop what became the Deafblind Studies programme. And in 2002, the first cohort of students commenced that Deafblind Studies programme at certificate and then diploma level. Springing forward to 2015, the course was piloted online, an online version. And it is now an online course that we deliver here at the university. And by 2018, 9 cohorts of students had completed Deafblind Studies and were working in the field. This Deafblind Studies course was very well known and very well respected in the social care sector, having been developed by practitioners and academic experts in the field. It achieved high quality outcomes, with alumni going on to further study and to lead deafblind services in their respective organisations. But in 2019, the chair and the course director were retiring from the programme, and the consortium therefore sought a new home for the course. And I was very fortunate on behalf of Birmingham City University to work very closely with our collaborating partners in the 4 charities of the consortium to develop, to renew and to modernise these courses so that they are now delivered by the university. We undertook an extensive period of consultation with experts in the field, academics, practitioners, and those living with deafblindness, and of course, people that are a combination of these things. And in October 2021, the courses were approved and an external examiner appointed in January 2022. The first cohort of students on this new modernised version of Deafblind Studies commenced the course in March 2022. In the consortium of charities have been very generous in their contribution of resources, materials and teaching materials to support the course. And Birmingham City University now also hosts the Specialist Deafblind Library, originally housed in Sense headquarters, and then Deafblind UK in Peterborough, and then donated to Birmingham City University. So we are now the holders of this excellent resource, which is made available to students on the courses. The courses, the certificate and the diploma, have been designed to reflect the university vision and key values, but also the values of that originating consortium of charities. So what is this ethos? What are these values? Well, these courses are based on the belief that all people living with deafblindness have a right to be supported by professionals who have the requisite knowledge and skills to provide a high quality service. But we know that those working in this field often are highly skilled and highly specialist staff. And so what these courses also do is offer a recognisable professional and academic qualification for these people, recognising the skills that they already bring to the field. Mirroring these values and mirroring these principles are 3, what I like to call 3 golden threads that run throughout the certificate and diploma. And these 3 golden threads really have emerged from and are informed by our own research in the field, and also the extensive consultation that was undertaken when we took over the delivery of these courses. And the first is this: whilst the courses maintain a practice focus through both their content and approach to assessment, we draw upon 3 sources of knowledge, and no one source is privileged over another. These 3 sources of knowledge are that emerging from research in the field, that emerging from lived experience of deafblindness, and finally practitioner wisdom. And of course, much of the knowledge we draw upon these things. The second golden thread concerns diversity. We ensure that the courses consider the substantial diversity of the deafblind population. The course content covers both congenital and acquired deafblindness and the impact of the condition across the life course, deafblind children and young people, adults living with acquired deafblindness, and those with late life acquired deafblindness. We also explore the experiences, needs, and social care experiences of those aging with deafblindness and those aging into the impairment. However, we move beyond these broad categorizations, considering the complexities and nuance of the congenital acquired distinction, and also reflect upon the diversity of the deafblind population across domains such as race, sexual orientation, sex, and socio-economic status. Finally, our third golden thread. We ensure that the course includes what I like to term a salutogenesis approach to deafblindness. By this, I mean that the courses consider the contributions of the potentiality of deafblind people and not simply matters associated with need, vulnerability, and risk. We think about the ways in which deafblind people are often carers rather than just the cared for. And we think about the contributions they make to the lives of their families and loved ones and friends, to their communities, and to society at large. The overall structure of the courses reflects knowledge from the field, both research and practice knowledge, and the relevant statutory requirements related to those requirements I talked about earlier in the Care Act and in the Social Services and Wellbeing Wales Act to ensure that staff are suitably qualified to be working with deafblind people. The certificate and the diploma both have 3 modules, and all of these must be successfully completed in order to complete the award. So at certificate level, the first module is Understanding Deafblindness and Dual Sensory Loss. The second is focused on understanding communication, movement, and mobility. And the third and final module looks at law, public policy, and its relationship with deafblindness. And that really concentrates on social care law, but also includes wider policy and legal provisions, those related to equality, those related to human rights, those related to welfare rights and education. The 3 modules in the diploma clearly build on the 3 modules of the certificate, the first being understanding and assessing deafblindness and assessing communication, movement and mobility. And the third module is an independent study, offering students a choice to explore a particular area in the field that is their interest. And this is tied very directly to the practice they are doing, as this work must focus on an area, an innovation, or an aspect of practice that they have developed for the benefit of deafblind people. Course content itself has been developed over a period of 20 years, probably in fact longer than 20 years, drawing on the experience and expertise of academics and practitioners in the field and those with lived experience of deafblindness. That content is interprofessional and interdisciplinary, and we draw on the disciplines of social policy, disability studies, physiology, biology, psychology, rehabilitation studies, social work, law and public health, recognizing that all of these disciplines contribute to our understanding of deafblindness. The course materials have been modernised to include contemporary research, law and policy provisions, drawing particularly on research material from across the world, especially the Nordic countries, the USA and Canada, recognising the contributions that these particular countries have made, but also increasingly drawing on knowledge emerging from the Global South and the experiences of deafblind people in the Global South. And we have had guest lectures and materials from colleagues in India and those in countries in Africa. This, I believe, is a real strength of the programme and really heightens our understanding of deafblindness and supporting those with the condition. Students completing the course thus far really represent the workforce well, I think, and have come from a range of professional backgrounds and a range of settings. So this includes social workers or social care workers, managers within social care organisations, technical officers, rehabilitation workers, and practice development leads. And the setting of these practitioners completing the course also varies. We have had students that are working for local authorities, for third sector organisations, and also those that work for themselves. So a really nice mix of backgrounds professionally and range of employers. And of course, in developing that connection, these courses aren't solely about education and learning in the field of deafblindness, but provide an opportunity to network, to connect, and to link with other people working in the field. We know, don't we, that practitioners are often quite isolated across the country. There aren't huge teams in local authorities. It's often individual workers. And so these courses provide an opportunity to connect, to meet with others, connections that I hope exist beyond completion of the course and go into practice ongoing. And so student feedback, having run the course for 2 years now, has been really positive. Students have commented on there being a real benefit to the course and the way in which it influences practice and the approach to working with deafblind people. Students commented that it's been enjoyable. And again, and this is really positive for me to hear, that it makes a difference in their work with deafblind people, and also encourage people to continue in the field and do some research too. We really need to build capacity in our understanding of deafblindness to continue to connect and grow the next generation of specialists in the field. And this comment from a current student on the programme, the content has really helped in my current role with funding applications. This has resulted in large sums being granted to deafblind service users that might not otherwise have happened. So concrete positive outcomes, not only for the students completing the course, but ultimately the deafblind people with whom they are working. And essentially that's what these courses are about. Developing this next generation of specialists, ultimately to enhance the experiences and improve the lives of the deafblind people with whom they work. And so we will have another intake of students on these courses in March 2024. And if you're interested in these courses, then please do have a look on our website for further information, and you will find more detailed information about the course, about how to apply for the course, about entry requirements, and also around fees and costs and those sorts of things. But if you have any particular queries, you can, of course, email me at peter.simcock@bcu.ac.uk. We continue to work very closely with our 4 charitable organisations, Deafblind UK, Sense Scotland and Deafblind Scotland. So this is a collaborative effort, albeit a BCU course. So please do get in touch if you're interested or want to find out more about the course and how you can be in the next generation of specialists. But before I finish this presentation, it's really important, I think, to note that these courses are but one way of connecting, supporting and developing the work. To also recognise that the opportunity to specialise in the field of deafblindness is promoted, and that the skill and expertise of those doing so already is recognised. And so recalling the ethos of the courses I talked about a moment ago, these aren't only about offering education and learning in the field, but are providing our workforce with a recognisable professional and academic qualification. And to further support such recognition, I encourage local authorities to consider the way in which the deafblind assessor role is recognised in the context of career progression and financial reward, similar to that, for example, of the roles of the approved mental health practitioner or the best interest assessor. Groups such as LawDig that Joe and Tracy have just talked about do an excellent job of promoting the specialisation and specialising in the field. But I also encourage bodies representing social care and social work to be far more explicit in encouraging practitioners to specialise in deafblindness. This may involve being more active during Deafblind Awareness Week, for example, but also increasing the material on deafblindness in their online presence and publications, which in some instances is currently lacking. For example, a search of the British Association of Social Workers website is telling when one explores what is available on that website. I recently did a search, and I won't go through all those findings, but just to give you an indication, 6,819 hits for older people, 3,124 hits for learning disabilities, 13,023 for drug and alcohol, 13,023 for refugees and asylum seekers, 4,259 hits for child protection, 7,682 hits for looked after children, 3 for deafblindness. So these activities are really important. Particularly, again, as I mentioned before, the challenges that those working often in local authorities face. They are often workers, unlike the position about in Wiltshire where there's a team. And so making these connections is really, really important. It appears appropriate, I think, to finish this presentation with a quotation from perhaps the most well-known deafblind person, Helen Keller, the first deafblind person to be known to be educated to degree level, talking about education in these courses. And Helen, a daring adventure, or it's nothing at all. And it's my sincere hope that the Deafblind Studies course will play an important role in equipping the workforce with the knowledge, the skills, and the confidence to support deafblind people to enjoy this daring adventure. Thank you very much for listening to the presentation. Again, my email address is there if you wish to contact me about the courses, peter.simcock@bcu.ac.uk. And you can also follow me on Twitter, or X, I think it's now called, at Peter J. Simcock. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to responding to any questions.